Rules of the road today are we're going to start with each panelist giving a brief description about their system. We would save questions to the end. We're going to hold about 15 minutes, but we will entertain hot topical questions that you just can't wait to ask. So during the presentation, we'll take 1 or 2 questions in regards to each topic. And so with that, we are at the start, here I go. We're at the start of the panel, and we're going to hear what Josh has to say about his system.
Thank you. I'll try not to duplicate too much of what was already presented. But Muir Health is a Bay Area not-for-profit health system about 20 minutes east of San Francisco in the Walnut Creek, Concord area, you might be familiar with. One of the largest employers in the area with about 6,000 employees. Annual revenues of about $1.4 billion. We have about 250 primary and specialty care physicians within our foundation model, as well as a pretty robust FDA network of about another 750 physicians in the community. Our 2 main facilities, John Muir Walnut Creek and John Muir Concord, our flagship trauma center is the Walnut Creek location. The Concord location focuses more on cardiac care and other surgery focuses. We also have our own behavioral health center, inpatient and outpatient services, as well as a pretty robust network of outpatient services, including home health, which is fairly unique. John Muir as an organization has a fairly aggressive growth strategy, but more so through partnerships in the past 2 years that I've been with John Muir. Some of you might be aware of the acquisition of half of San Ramon Regional Medical Center, which is a tenant facility. Really was the first of its kind in California, a for-profit organization coming together with a non-for-profit organization. Very unique. Through that partnership, we have another joint venture that's essentially growing out some of the ambulatory strategies in the area. We also have a joint venture with Lucille Packard, who we partnered with to help develop our pediatric ICU program, as well as the most recent and most exciting joint venture with UCSF. Together we created a company called Bay Health in the Bay Area, which you may be familiar with, which is the parent company, 50% ownership, UCSF and John Muir each. Underneath which lies another organization called Canopy Health, which will be a insurance product offered initially just to the university employees in the Bay Area, as well as the John Muir Health self-funded employee population. But in 2018, we're going to be opening a product on the exchange. So it'll be a big thing for the Bay Area communities and an alternative to Kaiser for folks that don't like Kaiser. As far as the revenue cycle, fairly traditional revenue cycle. We do HIM reports up to revenue cycle at John Muir. My focus, as was mentioned earlier, is on Revenation, which is our revenue cycle innovation program at John Muir Health. It's a 2-year board-approved program that really, essentially at its core, is an employee engagement platform that we've now launched into a 2-year performance improvement engagement with. So very excited, I think, as I answer some of the other questions that you all have, I'll sort of weave in components of that and really learn more about it. Thank you.
Let's go, Patrick.
Okay. My name is Patrick McDermott with Sutter Health. I'll focus on something unique about Sutter Health, and like a lot of organizations, it's a big, complex health system. About 4 years ago, we decided to do something very important to save about $400 million of administrative costs around the organization. This is something that's a challenge for all organizations having way too much money in administrative expenditures. So we created a shared services organization. And inside one building, we have revenue cycle, HR, payroll, accounts payable, finance, and supply chain. And so in this one building, we've got this incredible opportunity to collaborate with each other. A couple things that I thought were just really fascinating when I first got there 2 years ago, is there are no offices, meaning there are no traditional offices with office doors. Even though there are 4 VPs and a CEO in the building, we do not have office doors. We have something which we call cabanas, okay? And I love this notion. It took me about a week to adapt. I was very worried initially, like how are you going to concentrate? How are you going to have crucial conversations? You know, how are you going to yell at someone, okay? And I'm like, well, just don't yell, okay? Just have, rational, factual, moderate conversations. And if I were to do it all over again in terms of office design, take those doors off on Wednesday when you guys get back to work. Just get your toolbox out and just take those doors off and tell your boss later what you did. You're more accessible. I like to joke about the whole concept and say that we don't have an open door policy because we don't have doors, and the staff will just knock on my cabana, supervisors, managers, and they just you're just much more accessible as a manager. And we're going to talk about leadership later, but as we build these organizations to be so big and complex and consolidated, it's very easy to lose touch with all the levels in the organization. So we really have to be innovative in how we continue to be very accessible as leaders.
I've been to Patrick's building, and the no-door policy is awkward when you have to go to the restroom. So my name is Steve Sharmann with Dignity Health, and as Eric mentioned, we have 36 hospitals in the state of California, Nevada, and states of California, Arizona, and Nevada. And just to kind of give a brief perspective, I suppose, so that you understand when I answer questions, kind of our makeup. In 2013, many of you may know that Dignity Health partnered and created a joint venture with Optum to this company called Optum 360. And so Optum 360 does the majority of our revenue cycle work from front end patient registration, financial clearance, and counseling through HIM coding, CDI, and all the way through the back end of billing and collections and clear to when a claim is fully adjudicated in self-pay collections. And so now we're entering our 4th year, we're about halfway into our 4th year with this engagement. And so we have a lot of lessons learned over that time, some things we might do differently. Clearly our partner would do some things differently as well. But it's been an interesting and effective decision for Dignity Health. But like everybody in this room, there's room for improvement. So we'll talk about those going forward.
Gerilynn?
Hello. Hello. Yay. You are active. I think a brief description of the organization has already been done very well. What I will share with you is things that maybe are a little different in the past year. We don't change a lot in Sharp healthcare because we're pretty San Diego-centric, and our focus is on our community, so we aren't looking to grow and expand outside of our community. But we do now have 3 medical groups that are out with Sharp Healthcare instead of 2. That's a change over the course of the last year. And probably the thing that separates us from most organizations was the launch of the Sharp Experience, which came out in 2001. And that really gave a cultural, consumer-centered drive to our organization, where we really build everything around what's right for our patient, what's right for our employees, and what's right for our physicians. And it's a culture that actually has embedded and stayed consistent over the course of the last 14 years. We do bring all of our employees together every year for a re-engagement ceremony, with the exception of this last year. And I hope there are no nurses in the room, but it was actually canceled because of the nurses' union negotiations. But we will have another one. And in 2015, we launched a similar initiative around HR high reliability organization. So balancing our focus on service with our focus on high quality. So we're moving those high reliability concepts that typically and traditionally live in the nuclear sciences and engineering fields into our healthcare environment, trying to kind of really standardize and look at our processes. We've been centralized for quite a while. The only thing that's new for me in the course of the last year is I've assumed responsibility for health information management, which we are now looking at how we can centralize that function. And we are building a consumer center for our call center. We're improving the technology in our call center and trying to get it to a place where you call a single number and you can address any questions about your bill, make a payment, whether you were seen in a hospital or a clinic, and trying to get all of that into a single platform for our patients. We've not had boards at our facility. I didn't know they still existed, quite frankly, for over 10 years. Again, it's wonderful. It's an adjustment when you first move to an open environment. But it works when you tell yourself it's this way because we're all equally important. And that's kind of what we move forward with.
Thank you, panelists. We're at the start of 2017, and as you plan for success this year, let's begin with the leadership topic. To navigate through the complexity of the healthcare evolution and meet the demands of a fiercely competitive marketplace, leaders need certain skills and expertise to move their organizations forward. What skills and expertise have you found to be most important in moving your organization forward and contributing to your success? And I'm going to start with McDermott on this question.
Thanks, Barry. Well, I'm going to pick up on something that Wayne Newton said. I found his message to be very compelling. He mentioned that you can only look at the knife in retrospect, and he was emphasizing that there's a number of important people in your life that when you look back, 5, 10, 20 years later, you're like, wow, those people were really pivotal to my success. And so, just for a moment, everybody in the room, just think, who are those 2 or 3 people that were really pivotal to your success, the fact that you're here, an important leader in revenue management? Think about those 2 or 3 people right now, and I will too. One comes to mind is Ron Long, who was a former chairman of the HFMA. He was my first boss on the provider side, and an incredible mentor. Another comes to mind is Dale Stockamp, when I first was recruited to Stockamp Associates. And you guys are probably thinking of 2 or 3 of the people in your lives right now, right? Well, what I want to suggest, and I've been thinking about this more, is we are those people now. You are the person that the staff and the managers and your partners are looking up to for guidance. You are the people in their lives that are so important. So, for me, with leadership, it all starts with attitude. Even before you get into technique and skill and tactics, it's your point of view about people. So it's really important to be present with people as a leader. And this is harder and harder now because the organizations we all work with, whether you're on the vendor side or the provider side, they're bigger, they're more complex. The geography is much more big and harder. We're doing a lot of virtual management. We're doing a lot of webinars. And it's not the same when you're on the phone or on a webinar with someone who's 100 miles away. You lose touch of people. So one of the things that I think is so important in leadership is you've got to get out and be with people. You've got to run with people, even though it's going to cost a little bit of gas. And you've got to have that point of view that you and we are those people now who are going to help people rise in their careers.
Thanks, Patrick. Gerilynn, how about your take on leadership skills?
I love this question. I actually have a fabulous team of leaders that report into Denver, but I think what makes them great is we have a high degree of trust and integrity amongst our team. We speak candidly and transparently with each other. So when tough times are on the horizon or when something looks like it's coming down the pipe, I'm honest with my team. So when we're talking about what's happening with revenues and the potential decline in revenues and what's happening with potentially Medicare reimbursement going down, all of us revenue stream line, and you can draw your expense line, and you can see on a calendar where they cross if you don't change anything. So you need to be able to share that information with your team in a way that they know that you're sharing it with them because you want them to be part of the solution, and that you believe that they can be part of the solution. So honesty and integrity and transparency, for me, works really well with my team. And for them, when they're talking to me, I don't want a lead reporting into me that thinks they need to hide something or shelter me from information. They've got to be visionary. You know, the traditional engineers say visionary, innovative. They need to be able to see beyond the here and now. But the other thing that I think separates a leader from a visionary person is true leaders follow through on execution. A true leader doesn't just say, hey, we did this. A true leader actually charts the path on how. And for me, when I'm looking at the leaders that are really successful, they're not the ones that just bring a solution. They're actually the ones that bring the solution and talk about how we can execute the solution and make it happen.
Thank you, Gerilynn. How about Steve?
Well, I have a lot of the same ideas that Gerilynn had as far as honesty and transparency. But the one thing I'll add to that, and I think hopefully I can explain how these two go together in my mind, is knowing our business. Just a brief story. Several years ago at a PFS shop that I was in charge of, actually we did Indian Health Medical Foundation, so it was thousands of doctors across the state of California. We were working with a company to convert our paper EOBs to 835. And of course, the expected nervousness from the payment posting team exhibited itself that, oh, this is our way out. This is the beginning of the end for us. That's kind of what their thought was. And what I mean by knowing your business is have a detailed plan for anything that you're going to do so that you can communicate appropriately. And in this particular situation, our plan was not to have any reduction in force or layoffs or anything like that, but we knew that the medical foundation was growing. We had grown from 300 doctors to 700 in a matter of 18 months, and we were continuing to almost double in size every year or year and a half. And so our thought was, we're doing this, implementing this technology to keep up with the growth, but we weren't going to reduce force in any way. It was hopefully going to allow us to slow down our hiring and leverage this technology. And so, nervously, our staff followed us and believed us and said, okay, we'll go with this and we'll jump in with both feet. And that's exactly what has happened over the years. That was probably 5 years ago now. I know you're saying you only converted to 835s 5 years ago. But anyway, and we didn't have to reduce force. And in fact, I moved to another position within our corporate office, but I see people regularly that are on that staff still. And they bring that up. We weren't really sure if you were blowing smoke or what, but they'll bring that up in the hallway that you were right, you protected our jobs. And so knowing your business, having a detailed plan, and then, as Jerry said, kind of executing that, I think is really important. And communicating along the lines. That wasn't a smooth process. And we had bumps on the roads, and we had delays, we had, it was a trying implementation, just like most things in healthcare are. But communicating with your team along the way, I think was just imperative that we did that. And they stayed with us, and gratefully it worked out the way we planned.
Steve, leadership skills and expertise that you find very important? Excuse me, Josh.
That's okay. So kind of along the lines of what Patrick mentioned, I think you can't emphasize enough the employee engagement aspect of the new revenue cycle. John Muir, like most organizations, we do press gaining employee surveys every 2-3 years. Our survey scores in 2014 for revenue cycle were fairly low. So I knew, going into 2015 and beyond, that we really needed to figure out a way to be engaged with staff, and that's where this concept of Revenation and what was originally an innovation tournament, which really we asked our employees to through this process, share their innovative ideas, things that they do every day that just maybe don't make sense, or things that they've seen that are opportunities that that maybe they previously didn't have a channel to voice. We had 365 ideas submitted in a very short time. We used things like ice bucket, kind of virtual ice bucket challenges, ways to kind of motivate folks to submit ideas. And the fact that we got 365 ideas in just a week or two was incredible. There are about 120 individual contributors, which represents about 30% of our revenue cycle. Through that process, we did crowdvoting, used crowdvoting to really kind of get people involved and elevate certain ideas to the top. And what was finally a final presentation with 10 individuals that presented on PowerPoint slides, probably something never in their life wanted to ever do. Presented their ideas in front of myself, the rest of my revenue cycle leadership team, as well as Chris Patz, my boss, in what was probably my favorite Friday of my career. It was a pretty awesome culmination of events. So that engagement piece is huge, and that's allowed us to kind of move forward from that. And those employee engagement scores, we actually just exited the employee survey at the end of last year, and the score is still great.
So we've heard some really interesting things about leadership, honesty, the staff being part of the solution, that we are the leaders, and I particularly like the ice bucket challenge idea. I think that's something that we could all try. Our audience is always appreciative of good advice, tips, and takeaways. What successful career path tips can you provide that will help our audience achieve their career goals? And Gerilynn, how about starting with you?
Well, it's funny you're starting with me because I've been with the same organization for 30 years.
But not in the same role, right?
Not in the same role. And actually, I say in the same organization just because it's called Sharp Healthcare. But when I started, it was done at Sharmann Hospital, a single hospital in San Diego County. So we've grown significantly. So while it has been Sharp Healthcare, it's probably been 20 different organizations through that time. Some of it is being in the right place at the right time. But being in the right place at the right time means that you're doing the right thing. And I think for most people, regardless of where you are or what job you're in, if you do it well, and you're the person that people turn to for how to make it better, and become an informal leader in whatever you're doing, you're kind of charting your own path. If I were to start again and maybe come into this environment, I gotta say, it's a different world right now from when I started. When I started, you could go to college while you were working. You could advance while you were working in a job. There was a while that I didn't want to go to lunch with my boss because I knew if I went to lunch with my boss, she's going to tell me I was responsible for another facility. But I loved it. So I think that happened for me because I loved it. You know, I have a passion for what I do, and I think it comes out in everything I do with the people I work with. I think this world of revenue cycle and healthcare is great. It's ever-changing, it's dynamic, there's never a dull moment. If you're somebody that likes to constantly learn, this is the right environment for you. And if you can blend that with loving leadership, moving into leadership is the right path for you. It's not the right path for everybody. Just knowing it and being technically competent doesn't necessarily mean you're charted for leadership. But if you have a passion for what you do and you can see beyond the struggles of the day and just see something that's super great in what you're doing, it comes out in every conversation you have. So for me, it's align yourself with the right people. Always look for how you can make whatever you're doing better. And be open to paths that you may not have necessarily thought would be carved, structured path for moving forward.
Thank you, Gerilynn. Josh?
So I think first and foremost, I think being sort of flexible and exploring new opportunities is key. I sometimes look back on my career so far and where I came from. I grew up in a very small town in Northern California. My first job, I was a mechanic in a tire factory. I mean, I was pretty sure that wasn't what I wanted to do with my life, but and the fact that I have a degree in environmental biology, it really, the whole other thing doesn't even really make sense. But you know, I think I was willing at certain points in my life to take a risk, take a change, try something that I wasn't sure I'd like, and healthcare was that thing that I've grown to love. And I continue as I've kind of gone through my career and shifted and taken over new responsibilities and things that I maybe knew nothing about, but I learned quickly. So, and then the other piece of it is really just aligning yourself with other great leaders. I mean, I work with a great team at Muir Health. Chris Pass, my boss, and I we think exactly the same. And I'm so glad that I came to Muir Health. I had an opportunity to take over a position at Kaiser, or this role, and the fact that I feel like I made the right decision, kind of got lucky. But really aligning yourself with like-minded people so that you can grow and learn.
Patrick, successful career tips for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw out two words. One is stress and one is burnout. Sometimes we use these words synonymously, and they really mean two different things. So think for a moment, what's the difference between stress and burnout? And so everybody in this room probably experiences very high amounts of stress, right? I don't even see a show of hands, okay? And so stress is having too much to do, too many things to do, not enough time, you're worried about hitting deadlines. Burnout is you're starting to lose your spark. You're starting to lose your kind of reason for what you're doing, your motivation. It's a little bit more spiritual in a way. But one of the things that I think we need to do as leaders and also people managing their careers is be very discerning that we have people around us that are experiencing a lot of stress, and then we have some people around us that are experiencing burnout. And understanding what the difference is and who is getting burned out and really reaching out to help those people. So I was reading this article on how doctors can be helped in dealing with their burnout. So there's a lot of literature right now about doctors. You know, these are incredibly important customers to us in our healthcare systems. And one of the things the literature said, which I just thought was brilliant, is as long as a doctor spends about 20% of their time doing what he or she loves, they can have a fulfilling career. Even though things have changed a lot. Being a doctor, my dad was a doctor many years ago, passed away 20 years ago. So his career as a doctor is totally different than what doctors are doing today. But this advice that I wanted to share with you guys, I think applies to all of us in this room too. You've got to very purposefully and in a very disciplined way, make sure you're spending 20% of your time doing something that you absolutely love, absolutely passionate about. So for me, I love instruction. I like teaching. I like developing curriculum. So that's one of the reasons I worked so hard on the Revenomics package that we put together many years ago and delivered that. And I liked it. So that's the way I nourish myself so I don't get burned out. And I think we all have to realize that that's a risk with all of us, and it's a risk with the people that you work for and work with and care for.